A reading from Exodus. Moses said to the Lord, "See, you have said to me, 'Bring up this people,' but you have not let me know whom you will send with me. Yet you have said, 'I know you by name,' and you have also found favor in my sight. Now if I have found favor in your sight, show me your ways, so that I may know you and find favor in your sight. Consider too that this nation is your people." He said, "My presence will go with you, and I will give you rest." And he said to him, "If your presence will not go, do not carry us up from here. For how shall it be known that I have found favor in your sight, I and your people, unless you go with us? In this way we shall be distinct, I and your people, from every other people on the face of the earth." The Lord said to Moses, "I will do the very thing that you have asked, for you have found favor in my sight, and I know you by name." Moses said, "Show me your glory, I pray." And he said, "I will make all my goodness pass before you, and will proclaim before you the name, the Lord. And I will be gracious to whom I will be gracious, and I will show mercy on whom I will show mercy." But he said, "You cannot see my face, for no one shall see me and live." And the Lord continued, "See, there is a place by me where you shall stand on the rock. And while my glory passes by, I will put you in a cleft of the rock, and I will cover you with my hand until I have passed by. Then I will take away my hand, and you shall see my back, but my face shall not be seen." In the passage from Exodus we just heard, Moses expresses the desire that he and his people find favor with the Lord and be distinct in the Lord's eyes among all people on the face of the earth. And the Lord assures Moses that he has indeed found favor in his sight, and that "I know you by name." Sitting in a basement astronomy class as an undergraduate, I understood in a single moment of epiphany just how big the universe actually was. Alongside my classmates, I stared at a photograph projected on the screen in front of us. The photo appeared to be of the night sky, but more densely speckled with stars than I had ever observed on even the darkest night under a Texas sky. The epiphany occurred as I listened to our astronomy professor explain that each of the millions of tiny specks in the photograph were in fact not depictions of stars, but of galaxies. Galaxies like our very own Milky Way, each containing hundreds of billions of stars themselves. The idea of billions of galaxies in the universe, each composed of billions of stars, made the total number of stars in the universe more than I could possibly imagine. Now, some 50 years later, we have information from the James Webb Space Telescope indicating that most of those stars are circled by planets. And in just our own Milky Way galaxy, there are likely 400 billion Earth-sized planets silently circling distant suns. If we are to conceive of a God of the universe, our conception of God must be very different from the kind of God imagined by Moses. Equipped with the knowledge of the vastness of the universe and the very real possibility that life inhabits countless other worlds, makes the God of the Israelites, the Christian God, the God of the Abrahamic faiths, seem small and narrow. With our present knowledge of the vastness of creation, I must include that Moses underestimated the magnitude, the grandeur, the greatness of the Creator. But still, like Moses, something within me longs for a God who knows my name. The noted theologian Paul Tillich has said that we can't say that God exists in the same way that we say that a mountain or an idea or even a person exists. God doesn't exist just as one thing among all other things. We can't say that God is in the same way that we say we are, because God is that from which all of reality emerges. Sometimes it thrills me to think of God in such deep theological terms, and then sometimes, like Moses, I need a God who knows my name. We Christians worship a transcendent God. So do the other major religions. Among Jews, God is called Yahweh. In Islam, God is Allah. Hindus use terms like Brahman or Atman to describe God. Buddhists refer to God as the void or the one. We religious people often imagine a God that is transcendent and completely other than ourselves. But there are times when, like Moses, we want a God who knows our name. I've passed considerable time among monks and nuns who spend their lives in prayer. I've risen early in the morning and kept vigil late in the evening and been transported by the rhythmic chanting of these holy men and women as they sing God's praise. Surrounded by prayers of adoration, thanksgiving, and supplication, intoned in the same manner as ancient voices lifted prayers to the heavens in monasteries for centuries, I have felt very much at one with those who live lives of complete devotion to God. But even so, there are times when, like Moses, I desire a God who knows my name. When I sit in meditation, practice yoga, or walk mindfully, I often find God in the quiet space between each breath I take. As I bring my attention to each moment in which I inhale, and each moment when I exhale, I allow my thoughts to drift away. I sense the presence of the divine in the emptiness, in the silence, in the stillness of the nothing. And in that place I often find the peace and wholeness and the serenity I need to carry on in a turbulent world. But there are other times when, like Moses, I must have a God who knows my name. I don't run as much as I used to, but running was an essential part of my personal spiritual practice for decades. I now strive to walk with the same sense of mindfulness. I bring my attention to the varying texture of the packed earth, the gravel, the pavement, or the leaves where I seek to find footing. I listen to the sound of my feet as they land, sometimes allowing my pace to synchronize with my breath. I bring my awareness to the alternating sensation of warmth and cold as I pass under the trees and move from sunshine to shade. And in this way, I am brought more fully into the present moment, the moment where God feels most real. Running or walking mindfully brings me to the realization that God is most fully present, not in the past, not in the future, but in the now. Even so, there are times when, like Moses, I yearn for a God who knows my name. At one point in my career, I made regular trips to the county jail to visit, pray, and worship with the prisoners there. It's a bleak place, and I had to talk myself into going each time. Sometimes I would go there just out of a sense of obedience, in compliance with Jesus' parable of the righteous, who asked the king, when did you do it? When did we see you sick or in prison or go to visit you? And the king replied, truly I tell you, whenever you did this, for the least of these, my brothers and sisters, you did for me. Some of the young men in jail show up for what they call church because they just want out of the cell block. Some bring with them the zeal and passion of a jailhouse conversion. Some are curious, and they all come hungry. But inevitably, God shows up, and all my high-flying notions about the nature of a transcendent God go out the window, and I can see the young men in striped uniforms desperately ache for a God who knows their name. Sometimes we all want a God who knows us by name. Usually I'm content with the God of the cosmos, a God of relationship, a God who occupies the spaces between the words. I'm usually happy with an ethereal God, one who transcends space and time, and is as much a God of the barely imaginable beings that likely inhabit the planets that circle even the most distant stars and the most far-reaching galaxies. A God that is as much present in the rocks and sand as a God of the heart and the soul. But sometimes I too, just like Moses, want a God who knows my name. Amen.